everybody. Welcome to another episode of CRES's Ontario Landlord Series. And back our most popular, famous, and loved guest, Mr. Robert Lisi from Stonegate Legal Services. How you doing today? Say hi. Welcome.
Kevin, it's always a pleasure to talk to you and your audience, so I'm glad that you're having me back.
We feel the same way about you. You're a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we break it all down for these people nice and simple. And normally you and I are talking, we're given some bad news or what happens when something kind of goes left. Well, today let's talk about how we want to do things right. Let's keep everything turning the right way. And let's pretend we're having a tenant changeover, right? Our tenant has given us the proper notices, and I want to talk about the forms that you give and how you end a tenancy properly. I've been talking to people lately, and they've thought that the N11 and the N9 are interchangeable. So we'll discuss on that one as well. But then after, what we want to do to make sure that unit is ready for the new tenant. How do we prep it? What should we do? And things like that we can go through to, again, keep ourselves out of hot water or anything that we can go through that way. So why don't we start with how do we end a tenancy properly? Rob, I'll let you talk about that one.
So there's only really three ways to end a tenancy. So number one is when a tenant gives you notice, which is the N9, which is a minimum 60 days notice. Number two would be a mutual agreement, which is the N11. And last but not least would be a court order, meaning that you take them to the board, you get an order, sheriff comes and removes the tenant. Now, what people don't realize, and I hear this a lot, is that if you have an N9 and the tenant gives you the N9, by itself, it means nothing. You still need to apply to the board to get an eviction in case the tenant does not move out. That also includes the N11. So when we do cash for keys, which is a big thing, I always tell clients that the N11 by itself does not mean anything. It just means that the landlord and the tenant have agreed to end the tenancy. But what if they don't move out? We need to be able to enforce it. So we would file it with the board. We would get something called an ex parte order that allows us to evict if the tenant does not move out on the agreed upon date.
So even with an N9, which is an N9, the notice is when the tenant is telling you that they're vacating the building. We still need to or should be going to the board, is what you're saying, to let them know that, hey, this person has given this to us in advance. I guess that this is funny. We've never actually done this with an N9, given the board notice,
Yeah.
because they told
You
us
don't
that they're
have
leaving,
to.
right?
Yeah, like again, I'm doing things the legal way so that let's say for example, you have someone that gives you an N9 and they're supposed to move out by the end of November. Okay? And they don't move out. Well, now what? What do you do? Well, you're relying on them to say that they're going to move out on their own. What you can do, and this also includes the N11, you can file it with the board that gives you an order to evict if they don't move out. Now, usually under the N9, they're giving you notice because they have the intention or they found someone out somewhere else to go. It's usually on the N11 that you really want to file the ex parte order.
Yeah, no, this is great. You're right. Why wouldn't you do this just in case? What if they change their mind? They, it's, 70 days out. They say, you know what, forget it. We want to find a bigger place or a place closer to Toronto or whatever their reason is for leaving. They give me the N9 with good intentions that they plan on leaving, and then they don't find a place that's suitable to them or something like that. And now I've gone ahead and maybe tried to fill that vacancy or that new unit thinking it's going to come empty, and then they don't go. And now we're stuck. So uh, I've never done that with an N9, but that's a great way to make sure that
Well, again, you don't have to, Kevin. You don't have to. It does cost about $200 to do. So a lot of landlords don't want to do it.
until it
Okay.
happens.
Now, yeah, can I expand on something if you don't mind? Because I have landlords that call me and they say, I got an N9. I want to start showing it right away to prospective tenants. And do I have the legal right to do that? The answer is yes, you do have the legal right. I'm going to tell you as a landlord and as a legal rep, I would wait for that tenant to move out first. And I'll tell you why. There's a few reasons. Number one, you're going to be peeing off the tenants that are in there right now showing the place. Number two, it's not going to smell as good as it's supposed to. It's not going to look as good as it's supposed to. And the previous tenant will more than likely, not always, start bad talking about the landlord. Oh, he doesn't take care of this. He doesn't take care of that. Moreover, we just talked about what if the tenant doesn't move out? So let's say you do find a new tenant to move in December 1st and the old tenant says, "Oh, I need a bit more time because my place is not ready yet." The problem is that you've now signed a new lease with somewhere else, which is a new contract, and you're going to be in breach of contract. So I always suggest that when you have a tenant that's going to move out, make them move out first. And we're going to probably get into what we can do to the property, but I always say you have to get the tenants out first so you can go in, you can touch it up, paint it, make it look good, smell good, so that you can attract a better tenant.
No. Um, yeah, so you're bang on there. Being able to make something look better, you're always going to have that better come over, right? Sometimes you do have a place that still looks really, really good and stuff like that, and it is showable, and the tenant works with you. But you're right, they don't like it. You know what I mean? And even with a good relationship, there might be something that goes wrong. So to avoid that crossover, um, just might be better off all in general, and then take that month of vacancy to prep, to clean, and have it all ready to go right at the beginning. N9, if they give it to us with less than 60 days notice, it's not valid,
Mhm.
right? So we'd have to then do an N11 at that point, or
No,
no?
no, not that it's not valid. So remember, there's a power balance here. So the landlord has power. As a landlord, if someone gives me notice, in my opinion, I want them out as quickly as possible. If it's shorter than 60 days, am I going to sit there arguing with the tenant? No. Let them leave. The sooner you get them out, the sooner you can get into the property, the sooner you can clean it up, make it smell good and look good. Now, I know a lot of landlords say, but they gave me less than 60 days notice. Okay. Do you want to go over? Do you want to fight with them? Do you want to take them to small claims court? It's going to cost you more time and money. So even though, yes, the landlord is in the right, you don't have to do an N11. The N9 is perfectly fine. In fact, I will tell you as a landlord, I prefer the N9 over the N11. And the reason being is because the tenant is giving me notice. Under the N11, it's a mutual agreement, and they can say, well, Rob forced me to sign the N11. Under an N9, they're giving it to me. So if we ever had to go to the board and they said, well, Rob forced me to sign this, well, how can he force you when you gave the notice? If it was an N11 and you telling me that he came to your place and forced you to sign it, that's different, but not under an N9.
Yeah. No, makes sense. I just thought that, with that short form, right? Because it is a notice. But you're right, it is valid. They could still leave. Why do I want to challenge it? And that's exactly it. That's what we've said to our guys. When we get 45 days notice or whatever, like, guys, this is okay. We have enough time to do what we need to do. The tenant is saying they moved on. There's no point challenging. Let's just do what we need to do to set ourselves back up for the next tenant, or they choose to sell or whatever they choose to do at that time. But we have time still with even 45, 30 days notice, whatever. It's
You
plenty.
got it.
Um, so the tenant's given us their N9. They're leaving at the end of this month. Let's call it November 30th here, since that's where we are right now. We're in November. They leave November 30th. So we're going to meet them to get the keys on November 30th at 10 o'clock in the morning, let's say, and we're going to do a walkthrough, right, to make sure that everything is okay going through the house. Again, we've talked about damages and what's damages versus wear and tear. We have to be very careful that even dog scratching at the baseboards, for example, this is going to be wear and tear versus damage. So we go through the walkthrough. We're going to go through all that, see if we need to clean it up, need to paint. We were talking the other day about changing locks, so I'll let you get into that as well. Touch ups versus paint, and yeah. So here, there's basically what we're going through now. From how do we want to set ourselves up? What are you going through right now with your unit, Rob?
No, I'll tell you what I do because I am a landlord as well. So I'm going through this right now where I had a tenant that moved out at the beginning of November, and there's certain things I do. I don't do a walkthrough. And the reason is because whether you do a walkthrough or not with the tenant, what's the remedy that I'm searching for? Am I looking to go after the tenant? Because that's a separate matter. So what I usually do is I have a good relationship with my tenants. I say, leave it as clean as possible so that when I go in, it makes my life easier. So there's certain things that I do is number one, I always tell landlords, first impressions are everything. So if it shows a certain way, you're going to attract a better tenant. So I always focus on a few things. Number one is going to be paint. I have a 5-gallon bucket. I use one color paint. I personally use, it's called White Whisper. It's with Sherwin Williams. All right. It's like a creamy white. It's a neutral color. And sometimes when people leave, they leave scuffs and stuff like that. I go over it one coat and it looks better. It smells better. It's more attractive. That's number one. Number two is I use plugins. So the two flavors or the two scents that I like is vanilla and apple spice. Okay. What I want is when someone walks into my unit, I want them to go, oh, this is in good condition. It smells good. It smells clean. I personally have a cleaning lady that comes in and does a complete clean through of the washrooms, kitchen, flooring, everything so that it smells and looks better. Remember, it's just like when you're on a date. First impressions are everything. That's what I do for my properties. Also, if there's any maintenance issues, now is the time to take care of them. So if they're telling me about a leaking faucet that I never got ahead to do, or they said, don't worry about it, when they're gone, I make sure I run the faucets. I want to make sure that nothing's dripping, nothing is broken, nothing is out of place, screw in everything so that the next tenant that comes, they're not going to tell me this is not functioning, that's not functioning. That also includes, I know landlords, I'm not going to mention who does this, but I've seen tenants where they call and say there's cockroaches everywhere, there's bugs everywhere. That tells me that the landlord did not clean the property. Now is the time. It's easier to do a cockroach treatment when it's vacant than when people are in there. So do that ahead of time. Remember, anything that you do that spends money is an expense. You got to treat it like a business. I tell this all the time to my landlords, treat it like a business. Would you live there? Now, that brings me to the next point where a lot of people think that tenants are like a subculture, subcategory. And we got to stop thinking that way. Tenants are regular people, just like you and me. You don't know what their financial situations. In fact, some of them that have sold a couple of years ago are laughing right now because the properties have dipped and they have money in their pocket. So we need to change our attitude. Just finding the right tenant is the more important thing.
I agree. 40% of our lovely country pays rent, right? That number is going to grow, and people do it for all different reasons. One of my best friends who works for a land developer, he's a civil engineer. He is a tenant. He's been a tenant. He believes it's the best. I think it's Kevin O'Leary that's on the Dragon's Den that always pushes being a tenant
Yep.
versus
There's a few of
owning
them.
real estate. Is there a few of them on there that do it? I don't watch the show, but that's who my buddy always brings up and says that. And obviously we're sitting here thinking that real estate is the best investment out there, right? And there's reasons that we think that, and there's reasons other people do so. And again, as I've said many times, we're as individuals our fingerprints, right? Some like this and some like that. And we're here to make sure that the ones that are wanting to be housing providers are wanting to be great landlords and use this as a great investment strategy and tool to make sure you're doing it properly and protecting yourself so that you can profit the most and maximize your investment here and returns. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, no, I'm with you there on that one, Rob, because it's about turning it over and would we want to live in it. One of the things I say to our clients a lot is about location. It doesn't matter where the location is because somebody is going to want to rent there, right? It doesn't matter whether that's in Oakville or Niagara Falls or Oshawa or anywhere in between. People need space to live. They need to rent and they will rent there, but it's making it attractive and making it want to be desired by many, right? Because people are looking through multiple different places and the little things will turn somebody off from your place to the next. I was talking to an Airbnb colleague the other day, and he says that's the most different thing is how they present, right? To get people to choose on the short term,
Yep.
it's just as valuable to us here as well on the long term. You know,
Yep.
but yeah. So I said earlier about changing over locks. Um, you kind of shook your head a little bit there. I don't know if that was just from something, but
I I personally don't change my locks. You can if you want to. I know why people do it. I usually get the keys back, and then that's usually it, at least for my units. Now, I'm not a huge landlord. I don't have hundreds and hundreds of units, but an alternative of changing the locks is rekeying the lock. It's cheaper, and they just change the cylinder. However, it's still going to cost you quite a bit of money. So, I don't know. For me personally, I don't do it, but I know there are some landlords that do. As long as you understand that it's part of the business, that's fine. You can do that.
Yeah, we've done it when we've needed to on an eviction notice or something like that, but a lot of times when
Right.
tenants are leaving, on their own free will, I guess is the way to say that, and they're passing on and everything, we haven't done it every single time, but I do have one landlord who, he just changes the deadbolts out. Right, he
Yeah,
has
that's
them
fine.
all marked and stressed, and throughout there, I guess that's about 11 or so properties that we take care of, something like that. He just changes the deadbolts every time, so he knows which keys are going with which ones, so that even though he's not changing the locks, he is kinda changing the locks as they go around.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. That makes sense.
No one would ever be able to figure out where their key was now going to work if they were to keep one of their keys, right? I think that's always the big fear, that maybe somebody comes back and after somebody else has moved in or whatever.
We now talked about making it look better. Another thing that I think landlords need to focus on as well is taking good pictures. Okay. If you're going to use an iPhone, that's fine. Use the iPhone, but make sure the lighting is good. Make sure the unit looks good. Remember, this is the gateway to your property. You have real estate experience, and you know, and I know, if the property does not look good on the MLS, you're going to pass over it. So make sure that you take good pictures. Do they have to be professional pictures? No, I don't take professional pictures. I use my iPhone, and the iPhone that I have has a wide angle, and I adjust the lighting and everything, and it does just fine. Another thing that I do, at least for me, I do a video, and I want them to get an idea of what the property looks like or feels like before they go there. So on marketplaces, what I use, you can put a video and pictures up there. So I always tell people, make sure that you take good pictures, good video, and qualify the heck out of your prospective clients or tenants.
Yeah, definitely, right? Definitely screen and make sure you're right. Um, the Similar to the old thing, hire slow, right? Fire fast is what it is, so make quick decisions here against the people that are definitely negative, and make sure you're doing your due diligence to make sure that somebody that is qualified is actually who you want, because once they're in, and, we wanna make sure that we have good quality tenants, for everything.
Another thing is security. So, at least in my properties, I've now utilized video cameras. So, I have them in common spaces and make sure that the lighting is good. So, I've now redone all my lighting outside my building to LED so that there's plenty of lighting, especially now that it's getting darker earlier and I have women in some of my units. I want to make sure that they feel safe and secure walking to their apartment. So, lighting, cameras, these are all deterrent factors. It doesn't mean that you're going to stop anything, it just means that you're deterring something to happen.
The lighting and the cameras is a big thing that people can see just in case when there's arguments as well, you know what I mean? Like, we've had to go through that when you
Yes,
have small multifamily, it just as they say, there's your story, there's his story, and then there's the actual truth, right, of what really
that's
did
correct.
happen. So cameras do help,
That's correct.
and deter with stuff like that. What I was going to go before was with the pictures. You're right. We For our leases, we don't take professional photos either and send in our videographer and pay hundreds of dollars. But what I do
Yeah,
do is I take them with my iPhone. I do a horizontal thing, and then we send them to our photo people, and they brighten them up and make them look a lot better and touch them up that way
you
so that
got
they
it.
are going to look the best possible way they can, because it is the first thing that you see, right? As people are clicking online, scrolling through pictures, that is going to be what attracts them. You mentioned like dating before, same thing. When you're at a bar and you're scanning it or whatever, it's your physical attraction or your eyes that always gets you to that next step. Do I like that? Do I want to go
That's correct.
pursue that next step, and check that place out? Anyways,
And just like you said, when once you take the pictures and video, you only really need to do it once. So I have a Google Drive where I have a folder and I put the pictures and video there. And I even have the description ready. Everything's templated so that if I have to turn it over, I can put it up within
yeah,
hours or minutes, hour, depending on, but I make sure the unit's clean first. So I always believe in systemizing as much as possible.
with everything, right? We are doing a lot of
Yeah.
things here that are rinse and repeat. We're doing it again. We're doing it again. So why not have something there so that we can simply throw it up there one more time and do everything that way? No, definitely. So when a unit is done, we've collected our keys, we've cleaned it up, we've touched it up, we made sure that we've gotten the proper form, which is the N9, if the tenant is letting you know that they are leaving. Okay, folks, make sure you're getting your tenant to give to you an N9. That is the form where they're stating that they are leaving the property. If for whatever reason it's a mutual agreement, that one is the N11, and then the rest, other reasons to leave would be a court order for something else happening, like an N12 or N13 or N5 or any other N4, any other eviction notice that we're going to get through. But the N9 and the N11 are the two that we're talking about here for a tenant, either saying that they're leaving on their own as the N9, or mutual agreement between yourselves and your tenant is an N11. So once you have the proper forms, go through your unit, make sure that it is presentable and clean so that you can do whatever you need to do. Uh, Spraying for bugs or something like that, if you have an issue, that's a great thing to do. Most times we're not going to have a bug issue, but making sure that that place is thoroughly cleaned, okay, top to bottom. Like we used to do a COVID clean during COVID when we were selling out, like when people would sell their houses, there had to be this crazy deep clean and everybody had to do that. That's what we similarly do now with our tenants, that same type of clean where they go through top to bottom, windows, flooring, appliances, everything to make sure that this is going to be great for the new tenant. You don't want someone to look at your tenant and everything looks great and they open that dishwasher or the stove or the fridge or whatever, and then it looks like whatever inside some disgusting place. Um, I like that you said about paint having 1 5 gallon of paint. We use a light gray color for everything that we do. Same thing, a nice earth
Yep.
tone. Um, I'd have to ask Kyle what the paint is that we use for everything, but I know that it is a same thing, a very light off-white color, right? Either a cream or a gray. They go with so many things. So to have a large gallon or the same painter that's doing all your stuff, whether you do it or somebody does it, they can go through that way, and then do your touch-ups, do your maintenance, and make everything shine that way at that time of turnover. Um,
You got it.
yeah, right. That pretty much sums up everything that we want to be doing. And again, screen those tenants, make sure that they are great people for you and your property and your neighbors as well.
Sounds good, Kev.
Yeah, we're good. Well, it's a wrap. Let's thank you everybody. Let's leave it at that. I hope this makes sense for when you're turning over a tenant on how to prep it and get it ready for the next people. If you need any help or guidance, Rob Lisi from Stonegate Legal Services is always available. I'm sure his contact information has flown across the screen throughout this podcast anyways, but it'll be here now again, or you can reach out to us, Cressy team of Remax. Cressy.ca is our website. You can find us there. But yeah, always here to help. And thanks for listening to another episode of Cressy's Ontario Landlord Series, as we are here to educate and inform our Ontario landlord friends. Bye for now.
Please remember, while we are professionals, this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The advice shared may not apply to your unique situation. Always seek personalized advice from a qualified professional before making any investment decisions.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're finding it informative and useful, make sure to like, subscribe, share with a friend so that we can keep getting the information out there to Ontario landlords. And keep on joining us. We'll see you next time.